From the heart of Maine, this is the DuView Podcast.
And welcome to your October episode of the DuView Podcast. I'm your host, Du, a.k.a. Ryan Dumont, and joining me for the month of October is Maine House candidate for District number 59, and also appearing on episode 59, the Honorable Mr. Dave Rollins. Dave, thank you for coming on the podcast. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, it's great to be here, Ryan. And that sounds like good numerology with the...
I think it was just meant to be. You know? But that said... Dave, you're running for the Maine House, which is very exciting, and we'll unpack all that in a little bit. But just for folks that maybe don't know you or new to the area, get to know you a little bit. But you grew up in Augusta, correct? Lifelong Augusta?
Yes, that's correct. I was born in Augusta.
Right on.
At the old Augusta General on the banks of the Kennebec River. And very soon after that, my dad, who was working for the Boroughs Corporation, went on some relocation assignments, and we lived in Portland for a while. And then moved up to Aroostook County, to Presque Isle, and my brother started school there, but I was not yet school age, and at about 4 years old, we came back to Augusta. My dad left the corporation and decided to become more home-based, and didn't want to get into the corporate moving, and they were talking about moving him to Detroit, and that didn't appeal to him with a family of 3 kids, and he decided to come back to Augusta, and he partnered with a gentleman that kind of took him under his wing, Bernard Turner. And he but joined him and became a equity holder, a part owner in Bernard's Foodland, an old, family grocery store up on Eastern Avenue.
As there used to be many in the city of Augusta, and in a lot of cities and towns across the Maine and the United States at the time.
Exactly, and we lived upstairs. Upstairs was a 2-story apartment, but it was really like a mini house up there. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, living room, kitchen, dining room, and it was adjacent to the Farrington Playground. So. Position A for 3 kids.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I guess, so seeing Augusta, going from a time of, kids, the neighborhood kids playing, and that's kind of like, when you talk to my dad, who, you guys kind of grew up together in a roundabout way, both being in Augusta, going to high school together and whatnot. But, listening to him talk about, what people refer to as like the good old days, kids playing in the park together, family owned markets all over the place, and even Western Avenue was a lot different back in the day, with having the elm trees,
yeah.
which eventually died to Dutch elm disease and had to be cut down, unfortunately. But I guess I know it's a very broad question, but how has Augusta really kind of changed in your lifetime, going from being that 4-year-old that moved back to Augusta to nowadays, because it's quite a bit changed.
Well, I think one thing is, I think a major thing is the parents feeling secure to let their kids go.
Yeah.
We were turned loose.
Right, yeah.
The door opened Saturday morning and, be back when the lights are on.
Oh, and the curfew horn went off, or, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in Mayfair, which is where Bernard's is on the northern edge, western side of Mayfair, what a colossal place to grow up as a kid. But between Farrington Playground and Lower Mayfair at that time we called it the new houses. Houses were being built.
Right.
And that had its own jungle gym enthusiasm, go play on different stages of construction, in and out of houses, jumping into sand piles. We had an incredible forested area, which was prime for playing war. And then a walk out to the piggery to play ball.
Right.
And we were in common phraseology today is free-range kids.
Yeah. Yep. Free. Yeah.
And now you can't go to a playground where there aren't multiple parents there supervising.
Right, and that's very true. I mean, unfortunately, times have changed, I guess, for the worst in certain aspects with safety for children. I feel like kids are actually probably more, well, like you said, there are more eyes than there ever have needed to be, whether it be, like people having cameras at the houses or, whatever. I mean, I think people really are worried about, A, their kids, and B, just keeping an eye on them, either
And I think
for society or for other reasons.
I
right?
think rightfully so.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
the media and the awareness is so much greater now.
Yep.
But I think there's something terribly lost because in that period and with that type of lifestyle, so much leadership was developed. Kids groups amongst themselves figured how to get things done, and they gravitated towards leaders.
Yeah.
And at one point, you were the squirt kid, and you tried to play up with the older kids, and got bumped around a little bit. And
But you did your time.
You knew who to follow.
Yeah.
You knew who carried the weight when things were being figured out, and just who organized and all that stuff. And then some of us evolved into that role,
Right.
and so it went.
Yeah,
And that was so valuable to our generation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you see it even just like as someone who has worked with young people. I mean, whether it be teaching or even coaching. For Coney over at the soccer program, to see how things have changed from when I played, just even when I played, like 10 years ago to now, and like what you could, not what you can get away with, but like how the style of coaching, like the old school style of coaching, you almost can't do anymore because the kids are a lot different.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying kids are soft by any means, but you can't yell and scream at them anymore. And, like probably when you were on the sports field, some of the coaches you had, the dynamics were different. And it's interesting to see how we've changed.
Well, our parents were different.
Exactly.
Our parents said, it's his team or her team.
Yep.
And he's going to run it the way he's going to.
Right.
And if you want to play for him, do.
Yep.
And if you don't, then that's fine. You come work for me in the store.
Right.
So
I mean, well, that's true. I mean, you had two options: do it or don't.
right,
what I mean?
I'm not going to the coach and
exactly.
bail you out or tell him he's being unfair to you.
Right. Yeah.
Fight your own battle, so to speak.
I was gonna say, you probably didn't see that back when you were playing.
Very few parents intervened into what was going on. The other thing that's major change is the level of technology and technical skills kids are picking up now.
Yes.
I mean, I got a 3.5-year-old granddaughter, and when I get stuck in my phone, I give it to her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's wicked handy, Dave. I've met her, and what a cutie, A, and B. I mean, that said, very capable at 3.5, almost 4 years old.
She gets around her iPad and phone and the television, and she knows where to go and how to do it. And
even my own girlfriend's, kids are pretty handy with their tablets, and it's impressive to see, the 4-year-old zooming around, all right, I'll get my show, boop, 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 and good, so be it.
And that will open up a whole door of opportunities for the people that seize those opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That we never had.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, especially whether it be automation or whatever it is.
Animation?
Animation, whatever. Things are more technologically inclined than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Even in, doing my day job as an electrician, we're still doing stuff with automation where you have to sit behind a computer and you have to build the programs to run the mill, make the barbecue sauce, make the sausage, whatever it is, and that's all computer skills.
So they're not out free ranging on the playground; they're free ranging on the computer,
on the internet. Yeah,
and
right.
and the amount of different kind of creativity.
Yes. Yep.
But the amount of creativity they're getting for their childhood and development is incredible. So things do change, and it's stark, the comparison between when I and you grew up and how my granddaughter's going to grow up.
Well, and I think that's kind of funny too, because I can almost relate more to how you and like folks that are got a couple of years on me, with all due respect, obviously, but I relate more to how like you and my dad grew up than how a lot of these kids nowadays are growing up, because like we had a computer, but like it was still on dial-up. You know what I mean? Like, I understand computers were, slow to come or fast to come, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. But, I can relate more to going outside and being like a free range. Like when I was at my grandmother's house, we had a big yard, just run out, go, as long as you didn't leave the yard or, go past the boundary lines, you were fine.
So you said you had a computer.
Yeah. Yep.
We had a a portable typewriter
Yeah.
that with the arms that went up and struck the
Yep.
paper. And if you wanted a copy, you had to put in some carbon paper.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. But like, see, I still remember some of that stuff because like my grandfather had that. Like again, like I'm not the norm. I'm definitely an anomaly in the the whole system of things.
You're in the
but-
transition.
Exactly, but I think that's a lot of us that the folks that are 27, 28, 29 or almost 30 now are like, oh yeah, like we definitely relate more towards like the folks that came in the earlier part of the 1900s than the 2000 post millennial, whatever you want to call that group, Gen Zers or whatever. It's interesting.
In my daughter's old bedroom, which is now the baby's bedroom, there's an old-fashioned telephone from the 50s
Yeah.
on a stand.
Yep.
And when she first saw that, she was like, what in creation is this?
And that's true. I mean, that's another thing to see, like, like on whether it be on Facebook or whatever, some of these, kids reacting to go into the grandparents' house and seeing like a landline or something. Because, yeah, that's something even in my, my lifetime, we always had a landline up until I think we moved back to Augusta.
Yeah.
Just cell phones. It just became impractical to have a landline. I understand in different circumstances why people still have them, but I mean, largely in part, I'd say most people don't have a landline, which has actually a pretty great effect on things like, dialing for phone banking for political campaigns or whatever. I mean, speaking in my experience, when we first started, when I first started campaigning, it was easy to do phone banking. Like people would actually pick up, but nowadays it's like a crapshoot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of ways. And a lot of people have given up on phone banking because of that. It's easier to catch people at the doors, but without getting off on a tangent, it's interesting how that's changed as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But that said, Dave, spending as much time as you did in Augusta, playing sports for Coney, having a very successful basketball career, I'll plug that in there as well because you did was impressive. So that said, when you finally got out and about and in the the business world, working world, having a family and whatever, what kind of prompted you to run for office in the first place? Like, what need did you see that needed to be met, or was there something going on in Augusta at the time that you're just like, I need to get involved? Like, what kind of prompted that?
Well, I had moved back to Augusta. That's a whole story in itself. I never would have imagined I would have done that. We took off and moved to Massachusetts, and I started a career with the Campbell Soup Company.
Right.
And spent 15 years doing that. And then we were pregnant. And my wife decided her profession was very frustrating. And with the prospect of a new baby, she just found it a perfect time to move back to Maine.
Right.
And it wasn't, let's talk about it.
We're moving. Yeah.
Well, I'm moving.
I'm moving. Yeah.
And I want you to come, but
Yep.
if you don't want to. Well,
Right.
so, and we did. And we settled in the Auburn area.
Yep.
Settled in Auburn, Maine. That's where she got a job teaching. And I think that was probably a 7-8 year run. And I got into a product development business with a partner from Benton. And he would come from Benton to Augusta, and I came from Auburn to Augusta. And the business started to go. So, we were getting into the second or third year. And so what was going on is I was commuting every day from Auburn to Augusta and back. And my daughter was about to go from 5th grade to 6th grade, which is a good transitional break.
Yep.
And I proposed to my wife that maybe we ought to think about coming to Augusta, and you do the commute back and forth to Auburn, if you don't mind, because I felt the opportunities for my daughter at Coney High School and in the Coney sports program were far greater than the state of the girls' sports programs in Auburn in that era. And the big attraction was that she was really starting to take to basketball. She played something every season, but field hockey, basketball, softball, and later track. But the relationship that she started to have with Paul Vachon.
I was just about to ask you, did she play for Coach Vachon?
She did.
Yep.
And she started in the 3rd grade. She'd come over for the summer camps at the Augusta Civic Center.
Yep.
And if you ever seen Paul conduct a summer camp,
It's impressive.
it's the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
and he turned on so many young ladies, not just in Augusta. I mean, this was a big, broad brush of people that attended this.
Oh yeah.
And my daughter was not one that wasn't captured by the charisma and the, you have to call it charm too,
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
it was very compelling. Well, anyway, I just felt her opportunities playing for Vashon, who was a teammate of mine, he was the same year, classmate, would be really unparalleled. So my wife thought it over and agreed that, let's do this.
Yeah.
So that brought me back to the Augusta area.
And I mean, I can relate to that myself. I mean, that's part of the reason we moved back to Augusta. Is my dad's like, there's more opportunities for Ryan at Coney than there is at, with all due respect to Halldale and Erskine Academy and any of the other institutions. He goes, his friends are there. He's ready to play sports.
Yeah.
Same thing. So I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to get to play, but even with Coach Vashon, it got to the point where kids were trying to come to Augusta either on superintendent agreements or whatever, just so they could have the opportunity to play for the guy. So, I mean, it's really impressive.
And that played into our thinking because there's a lot of controversy about kids transferring schools.
Yep.
And, Vashon's recruiting and the Portland coaches recruiting all that. And I said, if we're going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah.
Because she's in the 5th grade. She's going to transition naturally to another school within the Auburn system.
Right.
So if we do it now, it's not like we've done this unholy transfer and
Yeah, you're not doing her a disservice or anything like that,
putting,
right? Yeah.
putting a stigma on her, as I've seen some of the ladies that played for Paul get.
Yeah.
And
which is too bad because it's not really fair, and in my opinion anyway. I don't know. It's just
Well, you should not be able to break rules to
but
do that. But
right.
if what people don't realize is you're free to enter high school day one.
Yeah.
From anywhere in the state.
Yep.
There's no transfer there.
Right. Yeah.
The receiving school has to make accommodations if you're going to live outside Augusta.
Yeah.
And there'll probably be tuition involved.
Right.
But there's no violation of MPA rules if you want to.
No, and I mean, like, sometimes I know the MPA. Like, when I played soccer, I had a teammate of mine who moved halfway through the season from Deering to Augusta, and he was on the varsity soccer team in Deering. And MPA said he could not play in another varsity game because he transferred too late in the year, or whatever the time period was.
Yeah.
And he ended up having to play JV because of that.
Yeah.
Trust me, get the rules, but at the same time, like you said, Dave, you should be free to choose where you want to go, within reason.
Well, I understand the rules when it's like you're already in school somewhere else.
Yep.
But I didn't want to rub up against that.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
we're going to do this,
we're doing
now's
now.
the time. She's a 5th grader.
Yep.
And it proved to be one of the wisest things I ever did.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean, she thrived here. Is that the right word?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Not thrived?
No. Not through, but thrive. Yes. And so when you came back to Augusta and started your career here, or restarted, I guess, your career here, at what point did you finally say, I'm running for city council?
So that's a great question. So becoming part of the community, TV7 always carried.
And still do to this day.
Right, the
Yep.
city council meetings. So I would sit and observe the city council meetings. I think Bill Dowling was the mayor.
Yep.
And I was really stunned by the lack of decency. There was an incredible negative back and forth between the public and the council, and I just thought this is really misrepresenting who I perceive we are or who we want to be. And it got to the point that it made I felt I could make a difference, and I think we could start a better way of doing this. And I ran against an incumbent, Donald Lerman, a very fine person who family were personal friends. I didn't know she was Donald Lerman. I didn't know she was a personal friend because
Right.
I didn't know Donald Lerman was Donna Duplessis.
Oh, I see. Yep.
So
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, whoa. and Cecil Munson.
Yes.
So 3 formidable opponents. So I say formidable, 2 formidable opponents and a rookie who proved to be formidable. And I won that race. And at the same time, Roger Cates became mayor.
Yes.
And part of my thinking, part of his thinking, was to establish decency and decorum. And we were successful at that.
And that's what I always liked about Senator Cates. So funny you bring him up when he was mayor. He actually came and spoke to our Boy Scout troop as part of one of the civic engagement merit badges. And
Yeah.
I was kind of struck, with how he approached politics, and I mean, given this is prior to the time where things were really nasty in the political, I mean, this is when things were still pretty civil. And I just liked his approach to politics, especially being a Republican, when he became a senator and just working with both sides and trying to make sure everybody had a seat at the table. I mean, which many of his counterparts still to this day are fighting. I guess some of the camaraderie and stuff that he's still fighting for, at this time. So, and on top of getting his endorsement speaks a lot, to you. And,
Right now, currently, I'm so honored. I mean,
and I mean, he's just been a great force for this area and still continues to be, even to this day.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
awesome.
well, he's still working.
Oh yeah, no, I know he's not. Oh, I know he's doing the his thing, and it's awesome to see. And I like I said, it's good to run into him at care events and other various things when when he's around. So it's good. That's how I got my start. Between him and helping out, I was friends with Liam Stokes, so we were holding signs for Bill when he eventually ran for mayor too. So it was kind of cool to see things transition.
So that transition from Cates to Stokes, and then I won the special election for Bill Stokes 1 year remaining
Right.
As mayor, and went on for 2 more terms, and then to Mark O'Brien, that decency within the chamber and wanting to hear what everybody has to say.
Yep.
But address us with the same respect that you want to be addressed back.
Exactly.
And it has now become commonplace in our chamber. So I'm really, I had a hand in that, which is all you ever do in politics, let's be sure.
Right.
People say, well, I did this or I did that or I'm about, and it's never really true. You've got to have support of people within the body of government. That's the beauty of our system. If it was just one person, it's a pure dictatorship.
Right, exactly. It takes a village, to quote, Hillary Clinton, but and it's the truest sense. I mean, especially when you're in local politics, federal politics, whatever it is, if you don't have either the support of your community or a good staff behind you, whatever it is, I mean, it's not really a one-man effort like you're saying.
Right. You certainly have influence over different initiatives.
Yes.
You might be the lead influencer, or you might be a support influencer.
Right.
But we do this as a group, and which is what appeals to me because I'm a team player. I love the team aspect of sports. I'm not an individual sport participant, and I found that base carried through to what I've done so far in politics.
And that's very true. I mean, at the end of the day, you're doing stuff to benefit your community, or at least you should be. If you're, again, that's just my opinion. If you get involved in the political system, your end goal should not be to benefit yourself. It should be to benefit your community. And I mean, I think that's easier to do in certain aspects at a more local level. You can actually, well, I passed this, LD, or I passed this, statute or whatever, and you can actually see, people's lives getting better, or, oh, wow, there's more money in downtown, or whatever, whatever the issue may be. And I guess that kind of moves to the next, kind of part of questions, Dave, is, what did you feel by the time after, how many years did you do on the city council?
9 years.
9 years.
3 full terms.
And what made you feel, when you did eventually run, what made you feel like you were ready to run for mayor, or what prompted that, next step to move on? Because that is a little bit of a difference. As, the mayor, you're more of the, I see it as more of the facilitator. You're keeping the the train on the track, so to speak, at the city council meetings and whatnot, and also are kind of the representative for the city at various events and at the State House in a roundabout way too.
So I think circumstances dictated that if I was going to, it broke perfectly because Bill Stokes, I believe, had another term that he was eligible for.
Yes, I believe you're right.
And if he had not been appointed to the judiciary, when I got done my 9th year on council, you would have had to go against Bill Stokes if you wanted to be mayor. And that would have been a tall...
That would have been a tough race, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a tall order. So it broke perfectly. There was a 1-year special election. And I wanted to continue on the council.
Yep.
I had no path because I would be termed out.
Yep.
I liked where we were going. I liked what I saw the opportunity on the horizon to be, And so I put my hat in the ring for that special election and was fortunate enough to get the support of the community and served that 1 year. Now I'm an incumbent, which is a good position to run from.
Yeah, definitely.
And they reelected me, and then they reelected me again. And I got to my third term. I was eligible for a third term, and there was a new baby in the picture.
That'll do it.
And she was located in Boston, in South Boston. And I had a 16-year run. If I took that third term and served it, I would not only miss some of her baby and infant days, but I would be done at 70 years old. And I'm like, maybe it's time to start doing other things, other pursuits in life. And so that I made the decision not to run for my third term, and with no regrets, had a wonderful 3 years, and I wasn't really even imagining getting back into politics at any level when I got a knock on the door, and Reagan LaRochelle said, Dave, hey, I want to tell you something. I want to come in, Reagan, come in. And she told me that she was going to run for the Maine Senate. And I went, really? And you're going to run against Matt Pouliot? And he said, no, Matt's not going to run for re-election. So I'm going to run for that seat. And I said, well, that's great. Let me know if I can do anything, to support you.
Well, actually.
She goes, well, that's what I came up for to talk to you about. And, kind of wanted me to run for her seat. And through a little process of thinking, and then Mr. Bill Briggio called me probably 10 days later, and he gave me his 2 cents. And I said, well, I will think this over. And I talked to my wife and my daughter, and they were 2 thumbs up. And you're not doing as much as you thought you were going to do, because Mom's down here taking care of the baby. You're home alone 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Because you're still running your appraisal business.
Right. Yep. Still working.
And so this might be perfect for you. So I then had to turn to my brother, who's my most important advisor, always has been. Brother that's 6 years older than me. So, 2 steps more experience and more wise. And he quickly said, are you crazy? And I said, well, I may be, but I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. Here you are, almost a month till the election.
Exactly.
And, that's just the way it is, and you're back. I guess before we move on to your, the race you're in now, just focusing a little bit more on Augusta, I guess, what did you say some of your biggest accomplishments as mayor were? My former boss, Governor Weld, said if you do get into politics, you better have a pretty short list of things you want to get done. Because he says 3 things tops. He goes, you get over 3, you probably won't get them done. He goes, that's regardless of, what level you're at. So
right.
I guess what would you consider your accomplishments as time, and either on the city council or as mayor?
Well, that's another very interesting question. And there's kind of 2 tiers. What do I think personally was most rewarding for me?
Right.
And what do I think was most impactful for the city of Augusta? So I'll kind of bifurcate that. And
yeah, please.
Let's go what I think was most important for the city of Augusta. So I think several things that I had a hand in. The reconfiguring and redevelopment of the field at the Coney, it was Coney Field, Coney Alumni Field. Now it's Fuller Field. I don't know if we can, in our heads, imagine back what that was, but it was decaying rapidly.
Yeah, it used to be very swampy area in general where the field is, and
bleachers were rusting out,
and the field was in tough shape.
People broke through
doing donuts on the field,
the bleachers.
Yep.
Didn't collapse, but some of the seating.
You had some real
collapsed.
Safety concerns, though,
We
on
did.
top of some aesthetic problems.
So I can say in that instance, I led a charge. Many more people were involved, and it took time.
As all things do.
Right. But what a community treasure that is now.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
And thank Bob Fuller for his
generosity and
putting the cherry on the top of it with the artificial surface and whatnot. So I think that was a major effect for the community.
Yeah.
transformation of buildings from schools to housing,
Yep.
elderly housing opportunities.
Hodgkins.
Hodgkins,
Yep.
Coney, the
Yep.
Flatiron
Oh,
building.
yeah, that's true. Yep.
Those are very impactful for the community and continuing.
Yeah.
Our housing is still in all levels. Housing isn't a singular thing. It's different
No.
kinds of housing.
It's a very tiered issue, and
Exactly.
I think people forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some very important developments ongoing. And recently, I know it's public now, there's a whole new redevelopment of the Kmart Plaza
Interesting.
coming, and it's going to be spectacular.
Because I know they've been doing work, I guess, towards the, I guess you want to go where the old Friendlies was.
Right.
I know they've been doing a lot of work over there, but that's interesting to hear, and that's good. I mean, it's nice to see people reusing spaces, whether it be old schools or there's so many examples of people turning old malls into these beautiful mix of, live-in space and also retail space, and you can have a coffee shop and a laundromat, right next to where you walk out of your apartment,
Right. So,
But anyway,
kind of the blueprint, if you will, don't hold me to it, but as I understand it, is Wendy's, who has to update and remodel anyway by corporate agreement,
yep,
is going to relocate down where the Friendlies was.
interesting.
And there's a new, up-to-date, modern 21st century model convenience store coming on the Wendy's pad.
Interesting.
It's supposed to be like really spectacular. Of course, we got the new bagel shop.
Yes. Yep.
The whole backside is going to be scraped, and they're going to rebuild. Bottom floors, offices, maybe some retail. Top floor is all housing, like you mentioned. And there's going to be a hotel there.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
That's awesome. And I mean, I guess not to get too into it. I mean, there's a certain balance you want to strike when you do projects like that.
Yeah.
I know folks in the Waterville area, some folks are very happy that Colby has come in and done a lot of work in the downtown area, and some folks are on the other side of that issue. They're, Colby's taken over the town and
Right.
whatever, and that's Waterville's deal. They'll deal
Right.
with that. But at the same time, it's cool to see some progress being made, whether it be for housing or mixed use space, because I really do think that's the future in terms of trying to accommodate the housing issues that are present. And
I know there was a thought of having an open access from that site over to the government site, which would be a wonderful place for people to live and be able to access work by walking back
Yeah.
and forth,
yeah,
which I believe would be part of the plan.
yeah,
Other things that were more of a personal issue for me was I had an opportunity to, and anytime I had an opportunity to support veterans, I did. But I had an opportunity to create Augusta as a military-friendly community and sign a covenant with the Adjutant General, Doug Farnham, and we did. And it's in my heart and soul because I grew up with a grandfather that was a World War II officer, came back from the Pacific Theater, a battalion commander, Silver Star winner. And, when you have a military presence in your family, supper's at 5 o'clock every night.
right. There's a structure and an order to things, and that's very true. And I would agree to. I mean, not only does Maine have the largest number, I think, of veterans per capita as a state, I still think we're at the top of that list, or pretty darn close to the top of the list. But that said, I mean, Augusta very much is very friendly to veterans and their families, and creating opportunities for I can think of many veteran-owned businesses and other other things, and creating opportunities for people, especially if we're going to go ask them to either A, make the ultimate sacrifice, or B, conduct warfare. And that's not there are effects, as we know, on the human psyche, and other flip sides to that.
Togus, I think, was the first VA hospital established in the United States.
Yeah, one of the first. Yeah,
and of course we got the new veterans home.
right.
And so I just think it's personally something that I'm very proud that we were able to
Yeah.
do. I never served. I did sign up for the draft in 1973, Vietnam, and I was part of the class of 73 that was the last class required to sign up for the draft.
Right.
And they pulled a very high number for me, but the whole year was put on hold because Nixon had committed to withdrawing troops in 74.
Right.
And so nobody from 73 was ever asked to join. And then it was pretty much a period of not much of a demand for increase in the Army.
Right.
And I just never found another opportunity. Totally respect everybody that has served and realize the sacrifice they've made behind, on our behalf.
Without a doubt, yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, like I said, and that's where I think that like folks like you, whether you say you never served, Dave, but at the same time, you realize that they did their service, and you're meeting them on the backside of on the backside of things. You know what I mean? It's
I didn't serve,
yeah,
but I have served
served them,
those that did.
and that's I think that's an important part of the process too. I mean, you need, like you said, it takes a whole team of people. Well, then it takes people like
Right.
like yourself to identify A, there's a need, and B, let's do something about it. That's on the other side.
And the last thing, not to belabor, but you know, personal for me was the creation of a historic district ordinance for the West Side neighborhood.
Yes, I think that's very.
We had some incredibly significant old homes in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was controversial. It took a long time, but I persevered. I was the chair of that committee. This is one where I had a big influence.
Yep.
And we finally got the support that we needed to get it done. And to be honest with you, when I go through the neighborhood, I see it picking up. I see people investing in their properties. And, working with the Historic Preservation Committee, if you approach it with the right attitude, it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for your neighbors. It's a win for you.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's incredibly outrageously restrictive.
No.
And the people that have experienced it, for the most part, are very pleased. Some people get very frustrated when they can't do what they want to do, like put a heat pump on the front of their house. And I understand that. It's somebody else telling me, your property, what you can't do.
Right.
But sometimes we all have to sacrifice for the higher good and the common good. And I think helping property values is a noble cause.
I mean, you need to have you can't just completely erode your property value, or you don't have any tax base. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way of the road.
And a treasure like a historic neighborhood like that, as a professional appraiser, I know the impact on value to those properties.
Without a doubt. I mean, a lot of those homes are very beautiful. As someone, like I said, being an electrician, I've worked in a lot of them and had to find creative ways to add things, because the way they built houses 100 years ago does not always jive with how we do things today. So you have to get creative sometimes. But that said, they are very beautiful, and it's important to also, from another standpoint, to also preserve what we have. I mean, we have the oldest wooden fort in the United States, in our backyard. So lucky to have Fort Western, and really all the rich history that's in this area. I mean, unfortunately, you had a rash of fires through the downtown area. So a lot of the some of the historic buildings are there, but you do lose some of that, which is too bad. But at the same time, preserving what you still do have by, having like a historical district, I think is a great idea.
Before we move on, I do want to tag one more thing that was near and dear to my heart, and that's,
by all means,
it's stepping up for the immigrant community.
Yes.
And the new Mainers.
Yep.
That was a very stressful time for many people on both sides.
It was.
And to, I just couldn't in good conscience not support any group of people.
Right.
For me, people are people, and to create I'm trying to find the right adjective, just a dislike from people whose circumstances we can't even imagine, and not to reach out and welcome them and help them. I couldn't carry on as a person.
I'm with you there, Dave. I'm with you there.
So I got involved with New Mainers. I got involved with making statements that we're going to be a welcoming community.
Yep.
And I interacted with ceremonies and stuff, and still have many friends from that experience in that community. So
I mean,
I'm personally proud of that.
And that I'd have to agree with you 100%. Again, as someone who coaching, soccer is big for those folks.
Yeah.
I'd say it's part in their lifeblood.
Yeah.
And to see, I had two brothers, I don't know if they were twins or not, but they were brothers. But I think they were twins. Regardless, though, they came from Syria. They were literally in like a UN refugee camp all of 6 months before they, ended up, playing for me, and didn't speak any English and anything like that, very timid and scared. And just, you could tell just looking in their eyes that they had seen some terrible, terrible things, and just trying to make them feel welcome, and difficult being someone who speaks French and not Arabic. But you just try to be patient and just try to work with them. And, when I came back from college, 4 years later, these guys are now seniors,
Yeah.
and they now are very fluent, incredibly fluent English speakers. And, one was going to go on to maybe play semi-pro soccer, and things are going well for them, which is
Yeah, it's awesome.
because people made it possible for them to come here. I mean, my family's immigrants. I mean, coming from France and coming from Italy, and even
We all are.
and that's the thing. Unless you're 100% Native American,
Yeah.
you're an immigrant. And that's what I guess what I'm trying to get at here. Is we were all immigrants at some point.
I just, as I'm out campaigning, recently talked to some of my friends, and it's getting better. It's getting better because the language barrier is breaking down.
Yes.
And the younger generations now are more proficient,
Yeah.
and they're seen as having contributed to their age groups and made friends. And
Yeah.
so that's, a generation or two from now, it's going to be, a seamless part of the community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the biggest thing whenever you bring new folks in is just you try to support them, and I mean, we had actually used to have meetings up at the soccer field with, do you know Anna Ackerman?
Oh, yes,
She was
well, very well.
involved with that. And she had a meeting with, between, like they used to have the, the head of the Catholic Church, the head of the Jewish faith, and the head of the, New Mainers, Muslim Islamic faith meet together and have cooperative faith meetings, which I think is important. Because, I mean,
I attended some of those.
all that stuff that they did, meeting up at the soccer fields and talking about different things, I think was important, to try to get everybody on the same page. But you got to, teach folks, this is how we kind of do things in the United States. Like we have bank accounts and and like that type of stuff. Just trying to like teach folks, the normal, 9 to 5 rigmarole, because we do things a lot differently than how they do things.
So I grew up in the Catholic and
Yep.
Christian religion, and I was taught that you don't cast judgments, and you have unwelcome feelings about other groups of people.
Have a big heart,
It's the brotherhood of man,
Yeah, yep.
and I
Exactly.
did interpret that to be just one group of men.
Right, and all men.
And meaning universally, men and
universally,
women.
mankind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that-
humans.
Exactly. So for the humanity, that was very important to me.
Yeah, and I mean that's important too to see. Especially I start thinking as you get to a higher level. And I mean, speaking from my own experiences in the United States political system, but I think that people lose almost the humanity in what they're doing. It's all about numbers and Excel sheets and stuff like that and money. And you forget that, even myself included in this, I had a big change of heart when I attended, a real quick story, Dave, when I attended in college a talk on the Dreamer issue was real big. And to have people come in and talk and say, I'm here because of this law, and if it goes away, I've lived my whole life here. Like, why should I go someplace that I don't know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry my parents chose to come to this country legally. I had no say in that. But at the same time, I'm here, and I want to be a contributing member of society. I want to go to college. I want to do these things. And I go, holy crap, this is like a huge human interest issue. And I mean, like I said, they're still having, not to get into the border crisis at all, because that's a whole issue, not completely separate, but, aside from what we're doing. But it changed my mentality that, we need to get more human centric when we're, passing some laws, whether it be in Washington or in Augusta.
Right.
And so I agree with you 100% there, Dave. It's tough, I mean, it's not like an easy issue to address.
Well,
either.
You and I are blessed by being, white people,
Yep. Oh, agreed.
and I don't have any trouble saying that.
Yep. No, I mean, I say that.
and we've taken
I say that.
full advantage of that, not in a nefarious way, but just
Just the way society is. Yep.
we're fortunate. We're fortunate that we're healthy.
Yep.
But for politicians to rile people up for the point of trying to find votes,
Yeah.
not to solve anything. I know this people are angry about bald-headed people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, make it worse, and I'm going to spread misinformation about bald-headed people.
Exactly. And I just
And
and it sows division, and it tears us like
it's
you were
not who we
talking,
are.
having camaraderie and working together. It destroys all that. And unfortunately, I think we've seen the results of that, and it's happening unfortunately as we speak still. So it'd be nice to get back to some common sense and, as you like to say, common decency.
That's the key word.
And would you say that was a huge reason for why you got back into the political, arena?
No, I wouldn't say that. That just comes with me.
Yep.
The reason I did is A, I've always liked a challenge.
Yep.
B, I believe that I can make a difference because everything I've done in life, I've contributed to and made a difference. And C, it'll be a great activity here as I reach the final stage of my life to keep me alert, to keep me engaged, to keep my mind working. And, legislature isn't a year-long profession.
Right.
It's 6 years the first year of the biennium, and 4 months. Did I say 6 years? 6
Yeah,
months.
6 months. I knew what you meant. I was just gonna let you roll with it.
And 4 months the second. And so it just seemed like an opportunity that I was curious about.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I have some pet things I would like to see if I could influence.
Yeah, and I guess so. I guess in terms of like the issues, on the issues, and you've talked a lot about what you've cared about, as your time as mayor. But are there any specific issues you like, when you get into, office day one, you're like, I really want to make sure we address this, or whether it be housing or whatever.
Right.
I guess what are your
The first thing, and I've already started. I've started to address it at doors. I started to address it when I talked to the party to let them know that if I did get elected, I'm going to be an influencer on trying to get away from the two extremes.
yes,
This is doing nobody any good. It's creating hatred between groups of people. And again, it's not who we are and how we should function as a society. So I want to be able to influence moving towards the middle more, where both sides work together. I am personally, and when I'm at the doors, 90%, I'm telling you, are sick of the crazy.
oh, I think a majority of people are. They're just quiet about it until you talk to them,
Right,
one on one. Yeah.
They want to know, you a Democrat, you a Republican? I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not a letter. Okay? I'm a person, and here's my
Yep.
ideas. And if you want to hear them, I'd love to share them with you. But we've got to get away from the extremes. And then they're like, well, that's how I think.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, that's
Yeah.
how we think.
Let's get back to business
So-
as usual. All right.
I joined the Democratic Party to be able to try to pull people away from the image of being so far left that the image of the party is tarnished by that. There are people that are in need, groups of people that need protection,
Yep.
group of people that need financial support to just sustain, medical, nutrition, drug abuse. Those are real social issues.
Yep.
We can't bury those people. But we also, as a party, could be much more diverse. And I would like to see us become the party of the middle class. And when I say middle class, that includes small businesses.
Yep. Yeah, it does.
Small business is the backbone of the middle class.
Very much so.
And I believe they're left in the same position we are as employees
Yes.
in the middle class, of the burden of all the taxes are being pushed down on us. And our amount of the wealth is not increasing.
It's decreasing. Yeah. It's
And the people that live above the clouds are getting us to fight amongst each other. And if we ever united and said, hey, dude, you got to pay your share of this, you're breaking our back. So that's the big charge that I'm there to promote.
yeah.
I got a lifelong career as a salesperson. People tell me I have a compelling way of talking. They tell me that I connect with people. We have got to unite as the middle class for our own survival.
Agreed.
We cannot carry the load anymore. So that's basically the underpinning. I will support good ideas. I probably won't support bad ideas. My party knows that.
Yep.
I think my constituency on the west side of Augusta would hope for that.
Yeah.
We don't need a button-pushing letter.
No, you don't. I think like you said, and I mean, myself included in this, I'm tired of it. I
Right.
mean, as someone who used to do political work for a living and got away from it for, various reasons. Say, I had the same issue when like I said, as folks that have listened know, used to work for the Republican Party, and it got tiring after a while, defending bad ideas or whatever, or at least my opinion of what bad ideas were or whatever the issue was. And when at the end of the day you got involved to help people and you're no longer helping people, it goes, you need people who are going to, I guess, think independently and do what's best for their constituents.
Well, and you just hit the key. This is the underpinning of my governmental philosophy. We need consensus reasoning. We don't need one group bullet point reasoning.
No.
We need free thinking people on both sides to come together, be open to discuss the pros and the cons, and then we'll vote it up.
And find a compromise somewhere, hopefully.
And sometimes you're going to compromise, and then
Yep.
we vote it up. And guess what? If we have that pure thinking, not politically influenced bullet points, we'll get it right way more than we'll get it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that far too long it's all been influenced by different forces, internal within the party, external within lobbyists, all kinds of things that get away from the good group thinking that we could have if people would work for the people and not for themselves or the party.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I agree with you 100%. Like I said, as much as it does take a group of people, but if you're just, doing the herd mentality, or whatever is set down on high, party platform wise, I mean, sometimes it's not always the best fit. As you see in certain races that a lot of people that end up winning, a lot of the times because they did push back a little bit against whatever the statute is, not in a way of rebellion, but in a way of like, I know the people in my district well, and they're not going to support
Right.
A, B, or C, whatever that is.
You know, a lot of people are really frustrated with Jared Golden
Yeah.
from both parties.
Yeah.
And that's because he's more of a free thinker, but he's also in a very complex district.
He is. I mean, CD2 is a tough place to. You're literally from Augusta to Fort Kent.
Exactly. And Augusta's new to that, but
Yeah.
so I suggest we all support Jared Golden and understand that having, I'm going to shock announcement.
Yeah.
With free thinking people, there will be good ideas from the Republican side.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think that's shocking at all.
And there'll be good,
As many of my own personal gripes as I have with the Maine GOP or just the GOP in general, Dave, I'd love for them to get their act together. And part of the reason they're not winning races is because they don't have good candidates. It's plain and simple. I mean, you can't keep running all these kooks and crazies from the fringes of the parties. You got to run. They've run all the modern people that were in the middle, like Senator. Well, I mean, I like I said, I still can't believe he has an R in front of his name. But I mean, like Senator Cates, they've run people like himself and myself kind of out of the party in a roundabout way.
Yeah, oh, no doubt.
And it's too bad to see because once you get rid of those people, you don't get them back.
No, right.
And you're seeing it. I mean, at various campaigns nationally, a lot of the good campaigning people that I used to work with and various folks I know just are not involved anymore because it's a zero sum game. But again, you want to get back to the old way of bringing people together, and they don't do. But I agree with you 100%. I'd love to see them get their act together. And
so I'm not going to just talk about that. I'm going to talk about it within my caucus. I'm going to try to find Republicans to work with.
Yeah.
And
that's the path.
My goal is not to disappoint the voters of western side of Augusta.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. And this is a fun question I like to ask whenever I get anybody who's either involved previously or going to be involved in the political system. Say you woke up tomorrow, Dave, and you could just snap your fingers and fix one political issue in the in Augusta. If you had that opportunity or a magic wand to wave or whatever, what would that issue be and why?
Well, I think that it would be very good if we could find another way to collect tax revenue and not be so dependent upon the property taxes.
Okay.
Property taxes is that's the way we get our revenue for the local city of Augusta, local economy. And it falls very significantly on small business, or all business. They don't get homestead allowances.
Right.
So they're affected more than the residents who do get homestead allowances, which help a little bit. But, if somebody, there's one model out there in the 43 of the states participate. It's called the local option sales tax. We've tried to pass it a couple times in Maine. and all the talking points of fear that has gone through the other 43 states in the effort to pass it are raised here. There's always a strong lobby and effort by tourism and business,
Right.
and the 43 states did persevere and get them passed, and it's working well. I won't represent it as a perfect system, but it alleviates the burden on the local property owners, and it also enables us to capture some money from all the people that come here. And we don't have much of a taxing mechanism, whereas you go to other places, and you get $100 room bill, and then there's $30 of taxes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
It's like buying a concert ticket,
on
right?
on
Yeah.
cars and on et cetera.
Yeah.
So some states have figured out how to do that better, and that would enable us to invest more in our community. We're just not keeping up with the demand. Our roads,
Yeah.
capital improvements. We roll a bond every year,
Yes.
and we can maybe do, if we do 50% of the capital improvement needs, we're lucky.
Yeah. Right. And I agree with you. I mean, that's the one thing you hear people talk about a lot is the conditions of infrastructure, whether it be federally the highway system or the Churchill Road. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's
and it's important
tough.
to maintain our infrastructure and our buildings.
Yeah.
Neil Young had a phrase that always stays with me, and it's "Rust never sleeps."
It doesn't. That's
So-
and it's. I mean, Neil Young has great. I love Neil Young personally, but I mean, he has some real. Well, their whole quadtuplet there. The
Yeah.
Nash Young. They all have a lot of good burning lines for
Yeah.
the American experience.
He's one of 5 people I'd like to have dinner with.
Yeah,
That'd be an interesting night, I think.
I think so, most definitely.
Yeah.
But that said, it is it's difficult too, and especially I guess talking about the infrastructure and upkeeping things is the more we lack to address climate and some of our other overarching superstorms and all these other problems. I mean, you see all the damage to like the Bethel area and to like full roads eroded, and millions of dollars, and then you have to get the DOT, federal government involved for bailout because you don't plan to have flooding. Like, I mean, you do as much as you can to plan for it, but you can't expect superstorms like that every year. And,
No.
and keep up. That's what I say to people. It's like, yeah, now I mean, look at it from a dollars and cents spending side. As someone who used to be a fiscal conservative, I mean, like, you want to get ahead of this climate problem because you're not going to be able to pay for the roads eventually and the bridges. I mean, if you have storms every year that are that destructive, you're going to be broke,
All right.
or you're going to have to raise taxes to an ungodly
And
number to
and,
offset
and
it.
when we rebuild, we got to rebuild kind of like resistant to the potential impacts to the best we can project those.
Agreed.
And that's going to be more costly, but we got to do it. I mean,
There's no other way around it unless we
No.
just
Right.
let things fall apart, right?
Right.
And that's, as you say, Russ, or Neil Young, and you say Russ does never sleep, so it's still going. But that said, I know you've talked a lot about your qualifications, Dave, but what really makes you the best person for this job? I know a lot of myself when I go to the the voting booth, I say why is this person the best person for the job? I don't even care about the letter that, like you said, you're not a letter. But I don't even really always look at the letter that's in front of the person's name. I go, are they going to be the best person, to represent me or whatever, So
Right.
why are you the best person to represent the west side of Augusta?
well, I'll start by giving you an example. This community has voted for and supported Roger Cates throughout the years,
Yep.
with many Democrats crossing over and voting for him because they found him to be the most qualified. And I would hope the city of Augusta would see me as the most qualified in my race. It's a binary race, me
Right.
against my opponent. And I think I'd like to have a lot of Republicans cross over and support me. They would not be disappointed if they did. What makes me qualified, and I think I'm uniquely qualified, is a broad-based, diverse experience, starting at 8 years old in sports, going all the way up through the college level, your early leadership opportunities through sports, learning a ton about working with other people, and learning how to be a good sport. And I firmly believe with all confidence I was always a good team player and always a good sport. So that was the basis of starting off. Growing up in a small family business with my father's grocery business, Bernard's, and then on to Mr. Market, built it, owned it, operated it. Seeing that whole family life around a small businessman, sacrifices that needed to be made. Moving on to my professional career, going to work initially for the Campbell Soup Company for 15 years, playing in the arena of big business, getting to a level starting in a local retail grocery territory and moving up into two spectacular job opportunities. One, I sold fresh mushrooms in the six-state New England area. I was the Campbell Soup mushroom representative for New England, and that was an incredible experience. And then that moved into a bigger opportunity, helping pioneer the membership club business on a select special assignments force, special markets they called us. I had Mississippi East for the Sam's and the Costco's and the Price Club in those days, BJ's, and learning the whole business of clubs. It's completely different than the retail grocery stores.
Oh, without a doubt.
And the products they want, the programs they need, creating special packs. And it got me to work with all inside departments at Campbell's, from test kitchens to accountants to the marketing people, distribution. It was just a phenomenal experience. And then that rolled into the government experience for 16 years, committee chair on several issues, on committees on several issues, moving up to being mayor for 7 years, representing Augusta in the Mayor's Coalition, going to the state capitol building, testifying at committees, presenting to legislators, meeting with the governor, getting to kind of know the rudiments of what goes on over there. That's a broad base, and not many people have that diverse of an experience to draw back on.
That's very true, Dave. Yeah.
And so I'm humbled by it. I think one thing that I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I represent effort. I'll always make my best effort, and I'll come upon my approach and my decisions naturally and hopefully effectively.
Well, I mean, I think that's really all you can ask for, and a candidate, to be upfront and honest, and here to work for everybody, not just
Not representing.
not just one side, but the whole community.
I'm not here to push myself or to push my religion.
Yep.
Or to push a group of people. I'm supporting all good ideas.
Right on. And if you want to find out more about Dave or his campaign, we'll have the Facebook page and the campaign website linked in the description for this episode.
Excellent.
So, Dave, I just want to thank you so much again for coming on. I know the campaign season is a busy one from experience, so I appreciate you taking an hour to come and chat with me and get people let people know who you are a little bit more too.
Well, it was certainly my pleasure, Ryan, and I appreciate your effort to not only put this out to the community, but to have your podcast each month, and I'm sure your followers enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, but at the heart of it, kind of like you are, at the heart of it, there's always Augusta, in the local community. We try to do more, we donate to Kara and time and, whatever. So we try to be more than just, sitting down and talking. So I appreciate that, Dave. So, like I said, and I appreciate all of you tuning in. Like I said, anything you heard you liked about Dave, everything will be linked in the description. But if you want to keep up with us, you can find us on Instagram, DuView 207, the DuView podcast, anywhere you find your podcast, and we're on YouTube, the DuView podcast as well. Thank you guys for tuning in, and strap in because the election will be here and over before you know it. So be sure you guys register to vote if you haven't already, and get your absentee ballots if you're afar, and if not, get in there on election day, guys, because this is a big one. Democracy is on the line for this election. So that said, guys, we will talk real soon. We'll see you back here in November. But in the meantime, like I said, one more thank you to Dave, and thank you to all you guys. And I'll be back soon another month with a whole new episode of the DuView podcast.
Stay safe.